we're doing something a little bit different today formatting wise, but that is because I wanted to take a look at both the opening and the ending animation sequences for the new Black Butler season, the Emerald Witch arc anime. There is a lot going on in both the opening and the ending, and spoiler warning, just get that out of the way. Spoiler warning for the Black Butler Emerald Witch arc, and also low-key spoiler warning for all the way up through the little like orphanage mini arc. If you don't know what that means, this is definitely going to contain spoilers for you, so tread carefully, especially if you have not read the manga. Alright, so we're gonna start with the opening, and I apologize, I'm not gonna have the music with it because of copyright. Also, that's why we're doing this whole format thing with like the background. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is this, this giving big storybook energy, which is like a huge, I guess, thematic point for the Green Witch arc is everything around Sieglinde's backstory and the curse and like the story of the witches is very much giving like Brothers Grimm fairy tale kind of vibe. And this also is like a shadow box. I'll throw up an image of what I'm talking about in case you don't know what a shadow box is, which feels very like inherently fairy tale-esque. But this is basically, we know what this is. I've waited a couple of weeks until after the anime has started. By the time this video is going up, episode 3 will be out. This is Ciel and Sebastian walking through the woods after meeting Sieglinde, and they're investigating the curse, and we see his tears. Spoiler, we see his tears activated from the mustard gas, and then it goes into this little sequence. Black Butler loves some chess imagery, let me tell you that. They love some chess imagery, and the fact that the chess pieces are literally made from Ciel's tears, and this is his like mind games of chess that he's doing to like try to survive, that he feels kind of terrible about, in my opinion. And if I say this is related to the dream sequence that will be happening a little bit later in the arc, does that make me sound crazy? Anyway, this is them walking to Sieglinde's. I don't think this is anything super special, but I do, the arches that frame this, it's just a really nice touch, and also adds to that like shadow box feeling. I don't know if there's like another detail about this that I'm not picking up on, but I just think this looks really cool. And we kind of move past them, and we see the big ol' wolf boy. Nothing super special to say about that. That's just, you know, adding to the vibes of the mystery, and the whole, just aesthetically, this whole arc is very much giving werewolves and witches. And that's just, you know, we don't need to talk about that. But this is a nice little, like, overview of Sieglinde's castle, mansion, place that she lives. We spent a lot of time on that, but then, like, shifting into the story of the Emerald Witch giving her legs away. I love the art style in this. This is nice. This is so pretty. But yeah, this is basically the backstory of the Emerald Witch, is, you know, sacrificing her legs to the wolves for protection. The like Ouroboros of wolves kind of low-key is giving, like, it is protecting them. So they're in the circle of the wolves, in the wolves' protection, but they're also trapped by the wolves, which is something we end up, it's already been discussed by episode 2 of the anime, that everyone in the village is, from Sieglinde's perspective, is trapped in that village by the wolves. That's cool. I didn't notice this detail until just now, because I've been looking at girly here. I like that. That's so fun. And then there's Sieglinde and her magical girl. She's having her Sailor Moon moment, and we love to see it. Her Sailor Moon moment is so pretty, but also all of the starlight. So the starlight imagery is something that kind of, as far as I can remember, pops up in the Emerald Witch arc surrounding Ciel. And we know Ciel has a huge impact on Sieglinde's life, and the rocking horses and all this is very much like an homage to Ciel's childhood, I feel like. We see that a lot in his well, not like a lot, but we see like the rocking horses are very much like an image, like a childhood imagery, and Siglinde is 11, so that could also have something to do with it. And she does start doing her magic more when, you know, Ciel succumbs to the horrors and we start seeing more of this imagery again. Anyway, her magical girl sequence is so pretty. Also, the symbols from her like magic floating around are also like a really nice touch because it does make it feel more like magic and less like chemistry, which is literally what it is. The magic of science, truly. Ooh, the wolf. Hang on. This is basically the title card, and it does nicely like tie up all of the shadow box kind of vibes we were having before. But the wolf claw marks, crazy, love it. This, the elevator down to the lab, love that. This whole like part is basically just Siglinde's magic lab, which is really cool. And if I say this is Sebastian's goop, his little shadowy goop as he's trying to kill our boy, kill our boy. I used to think he was being 100% serious. He claims to be 90% serious, which in my opinion is still very serious. But it was just a big wake-up call to Ciel. That's literally what this is him waking up from his PTSD nightmare sequence. Or I guess like the very end of it. And we see our demon boy. I am Sebastian's #1 hater, lovingly and jokingly. I've realized not everybody knows that when I hate on Sebastian, it is partially a joke. But I do have to give it to him. This is so pretty. Cloverworks really popped off with this. Anyway, I'm pretty sure this is like a direct panel from the manga. So we know Sebastian is basically Ciel's weapon, right? And he utilizes Sebastian a lot in his game of chess, that his mind games or whatever he thinks he's doing. So the sword coming in and disrupting everything, scattering the pieces, tearing through the murky waters or whatever, is very much Sebastian, like, giving Ciel his wake-up call, but also changing the game for him, because getting Sebastian does, I mean, it's the start of the game, but it also is a big game changer for this child, basically. I think that's a cool little piece. Also, the hate that I'm feeling from this, I don't know if I said this in my Emerald Witch video about the manga, but I've been thinking about it a lot, looking at this specifically. The moment where Sebastian basically attempts to eat Ciel's soul to serve as a wake-up call, we could go back and forth all day on how serious Sebastian actually was, if he was actually going to do it, or if it was just him, you know, giving Ciel that tough love to pull him out of his PTSD attack. Who knows? From Ciel's perspective, that fundamentally changes the dynamics of their relationship, however you read that. Because prior to this arc, we've gotten, and by we, I also mean Ciel, has gotten very comfortable with Sebastian, very assured of himself and his power that he thinks he holds in this demon master dynamic. And after this particular moment, he loses all that confidence that he has. He realizes and remembers that Sebastian is not a caretaker. Sebastian's not his overly capable butler. That is a demon who is just cooking. And Ciel is the meal he is cooking. And it's after this that their dynamic kind of changes a bit. And Ciel is like, yo, I cannot trust you. You are not somebody that I can lean on in a time of need. And him remembering that and like reinstills that disdain and that hatred he has for this demon, who is also low-key a reminder and a symbol of the worst times of his life, because we know he wouldn't have the demon if his twin brother that he loved so much was never sacrificed. He wouldn't have the demon if his family was never attacked. So there's a lot of emotional baggage here. And the tie to the cut to the contract mark, and then Sebastian's hungry mouth, I feel like ties all of that together. Then we have our little, like, yes, my lord moment, because that's what that pose means. But, like, baby girl's baby girlin'. I don't have a whole lot else to say about that. And that is the last time y'all will ever hear me call Sebastian baby girl. Cloverworks really outdid themselves with his little fangs. Love that. But yeah, no, the Green Witch arc and this opening is a very stark reminder that as pretty as he is, as silly as he gets, that's still a demon at the end of the day. So don't you be forgetting that. That's the lab. We see the, like, canisters of the gas. Also, I don't remember in the manga if the lab had this, like, these archways, and if they did, then that's 100% what the, like, storybook circles, not storybook, the Shadowbox circles type vibe from earlier was all about, a callback to the lab. I'm gonna throw up a picture of the manga here to, like, confirm, but Ciel running through the lab, like, it's not really subtle. I don't feel like it's all that subtle, but if you don't know the plot twist of the Green Witch arc, then you may not be thinking too much about, like, what's around him, and he's just, you know, struggling and running through whatever. And then we kind of, like, have this moment with the servants, and Snake is snaking. He's doing his thing. But we basically go, like, quick run through what every servant does during the big, like, climactic escape slash fight scene towards the end of the arc. And snakes were very vital in, like, finding things out. And then, of course, you know, Bard's out here with his explosives. Love that. This is a direct panel. He doesn't. I have seen someone say, let's go back to where we can see his smug face better. I've seen someone say they wouldn't be surprised if they reanimate this later in the anime and put him in Sieglindé's dress, because that is what he's wearing in this exact panel. Love that. And then we see Finny running, because Green Witch arc is when we get Finian's backstory, and we see where he got his name from and how it ties to this storybook, and how that storybook serves as a motivation to Finian to step up and lock in. So he's locking in right now. And speaking of locking in, this is just a cool little sequence, again, that shows what the servants do, the roles that they play during the action, basically. Except for Tanaka. They don't show Tanaka's role in the action, but he is serving. This is not my own original thought, but I've seen people on Tumblr speculate that maybe the reason, or maybe it's not maybe the reason, but it's a cool little detail that Tanaka is in. Basically, the transition here implies that Tanaka is in Mayrin's sights, and it could foreshadow that Tanaka is not inherently a part of the gang, because we know when the twin comes back, he switches sides, basically, because he's loyal to the head of the Phantom Hive family. He's not specifically loyal to our CL or real CL. He's just doing a job, while the rest of the Phantom Hive servants are loyal to the person and not the title, if that makes sense. So I thought that was neat. And the way he's framed by the circles is giving in the shots. And then we see, basically, I'll let this finish. Okay. Ciel single-handedly changes Sieglindé's life. This is like a life-changing moment. This is when he asks her if she wants to come out and, like, experience the outside world, or if she's satisfied being stuck in the village. This is also, I don't know if it's not the same scene, but this is also, like, when he's asking her if she wants to be someone who helps, and maybe she can help to find a cure for the gases that she helped produce. And this is like her big pivotal life-changing moment. So this is the bedroom where Ciel's having the worst time of his life. This is his PTSD attack room. You can't see it very well. Can I go back? This is that bed that Ciel is in during his nightmare. This is, you know, symbolism that comes up in his nightmare. The lights, the rocking chairs from his childhood, not taxidermy, they're skulls. The skulls, it's so cool. but yeah, that was all like his nightmare sequence, and then we get the elevator down to the lab, um, like crashing down and into the lab. We love to see it. And then our menacing boys, because they are here to mess things up. I love that for them. This is just a cool shot. That's just a really cool shot. The opening is really cool. Love that. Okay, this is, I should also mention this is entirely unscripted. But now, can I just, before we get into this, I have never in my life been normal about this ending animation. When I watched the first episode, I rewound this. I watched it again. I found it on YouTube and proceeded to watch it a million more times that weekend. This, changed my brain chemistry. Anyway, let's get into it. So, Siglinde's storybook, the Emerald Witch history storybook vibes. The storybook vibes are like the pop-up book of her life, to kind of make her life feel more like a fairy tale, because we know Siglinde's whole thing is that her life is very fabricated, and it is a made-up story to basically get this child to participate in chemical warfare without realizing that's what she's doing. So I think hammering in on the fiction of her life is really, like, a really cool aesthetic detail that I like a lot. And then we come up to reality and the moon, because it's so pretty. I don't think there's anything special to say here other than, like, werewolves are very much associated with the moon. But then we find ourselves in the elevator that goes down to her lab, and everyone is waltzing, because the song is called, actually I don't know they're waltzing, but they're dancing to the waltz, is what the song is called. There's nothing super special to say here other than, like, we're seeing both Ciel and Siglinde with their butler duo, and in a way it kind of puts Siglinde and Wolfram in a parallel with Ciel and Sebastian, because they do have that really close bond. They have that master-servant dynamic, and they're very dedicated to each other in the way that Ciel and Sebastian appear to be dedicated to each other. And in a way, it's almost like Soma and Agni serving as a parallel to Ciel and Sebastian, a what if things were better, if their dynamic was better. And Wolfram is not quite like Agni in the sense that Siglinde has saved him, but Siglinde has brought a lot of color into his life, has brought a lot of meaning into his life, and for all intents and purposes, that's his daughter. He is her father figure, and he has grown to care about her a lot in ways that Sebastian, I don't think, will ever care about Ciel, canonically at least. We love Dad Bastion, it's so silly goofy, but that will never happen. I'm of the strong belief that Sebastian almost entirely sees Ciel as food. Could I be wrong? Possibly. But that's always, like, the vibe I get. Especially when we see them paralleled to master-servant duos that actually do have a lot of care and love and dedication and genuine emotion between them. So that's always a fun thing. We love paralleling here. And then we have the girlies, the military officers, whatever. She's so cute. Mayrin is so cute. The elevator getting, I don't know if this is top or bottom, but the way my jaw dropped when I first saw this. So this is the room, the chessboard room of Ciel's nightmare. It's the background of this video. I'll throw it up so you can see it more clearly here. These are the lights and the curtains from the top, and this is what it turns into when Ciel is going through the worst of his survivor's guilt nightmare, and when he's breaking, like, right before he breaks through it all. He's kind of in a regressive state right now, so when he, like, pushes through that regression and comes back to himself, like, this is the room destroyed because he's destroyed and he's got to put himself back together. This That was Rachel and Vincent, and the way they go into petals, and then Angelina. This is an interpretation of, I'm gonna put it on the screen, this is an interpretation of this, like, scene from the manga. Also, this is Doll. Like, we've got all the circus members, and then Doll is barely visible. Spoilers. We know in the orphanage mini arc that Doll is a bizarre doll. So everyone else that we have seen is very firmly dead. And as far as we know, currently in the manga, has not been brought back in any form. So their silhouettes are a lot, like, stronger, a lot more visible, because they are, like, firmly dead, whereas Doll is not. And she's the only silhouette that you can't see very well. It's like faltering in and out. And then this is, you know, our homeboy running through his trauma and coming to Sebastian, you know, telling him to stop eating him. But again, they're waltzing. This changed my life. So we know that the servants love and adore CL. He changed their life for the better, and he's also their dear sweet little boy that they take care of. And this is them, like, supporting him and bonding with him, and this, you cannot tell me that this is not an Evangelion reference, because at the end of the Evangelion anime, when Shinji comes out of his mental crisis and, like, has his breakthrough, everyone's surrounding him clapping, and they're like, congratulations. That's what this is giving. Doubly so, because this follows the little, like, part that mirrors CL coming out of his PTSD nightmare. This is, like, the conclusion to that, and everyone's like, congratulations for coming back to yourself, congratulations. It's the same thing. This is an Evangelion reference, and no one can tell me otherwise. Also, the fact that Bard has a son, and Ciel is basically, like, become his son, so sick and twisted and adorable. And they're all, see, another congratulations scene. I kind of forgot this was coming. But we've got everyone here supporting our boy, even Snake. Snake and Tanaka don't dance with Ciel, but I think it's because Bard, Finny, and Mayrin have a much more, they're a lot more direct with their feelings and their love and their support for this child. Snake is still, like, trying to get used to the vibes, and I think he's part of the Phantom family, but he never gets fully integrated in the way that the rest of them are. He always does feel a little bit like an outsider, but I think that's because, one, he is not there from the beginning, and the way he joins the Phantom family is basically Ciel, like, manipulating and lying in a way that is not true for the others. And then Tanaka, well, first of all, that's Grandpa. I think he was very much a grandfather figure in the twins' lives, so I do think he does care about RCL, but we know he does switch sides. So that is also an interesting detail, that he wasn't, like, dancing with Ciel. He supports him from afar, mostly. And then we've got him dancing with his demon butler, who is his biggest op, but also his biggest supporter, because supporting Ciel in his endeavors is what's getting him his meal at the end of the day. But the way he grabs the starlight, like, reclaiming himself, reclaiming his past, and also just, like, claiming the title of Ciel Phantom Hive, because, you know, all of these starlights get very associated with the twins, and it's like he's coming back to himself when he wakes up from his PTSD nightmare. He's claiming himself back, which is him grabbing the light. I feel like that's what that means. That's what it comes off as to me. And then we get this redraw of that one chapter cover. I'll throw it up. This is just the chapter cover redraw, and it's really nice. And the little circle around, I like it. It's cute. And then we have science, because at the end of the day, the Emerald Witch arc is just, how can we manipulate a little girl to do science? And that's literally it. That's been my little analysis run through of the opening and the ending of the Emerald Witch arc anime. I'm very excited about this anime. I love it so much so far. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in whatever my next video is. I have a few things cooking, but I've started cooking some newer videos that I'm more excited about than what I have already like said I've been working on in the past. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys are enjoying the Emerald Witch anime, because I think it's amazing. And if you haven't started watching it yet, you absolutely should. But that's it for me, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye!